In ancient times, how do you govern a superpower 6.5 times the size of France? In our last episode, we talked about how Qin rose from a tribe that bred horses for the Zhou kings, and through generations of reform and struggle, ultimately swept across 6 kingdoms to build a dynasty rivaling the Roman Empire. In this episode, let's tackle a tough question. In ancient times, how exactly do you govern a superpower 6.5 times the size of France? A map so vast it's terrifying. Both a gift and a curse. After unification, the Qin Empire's territory reached approximately 3.4 million square kilometers, equivalent to 6.5 Francis. What lay before Yingzheng was a map so vast it made your head spin. This land was an unprecedented gift, but also an enormous curse, because at that time, there was absolutely no existing playbook for one person to manage such a colossal nation. So what did people do before? The solution rulers came up with was to carve up their realm and handpieces to brothers, relatives, and trusted generals, letting them rule as feudal lords on the emperor's behalf. The land? Consider it given away. This wasn't unique to China, the entire world did the same. Right around the time Qin was founded, Alexander's empire was falling apart. The vast empire Alexander the Great had conquered was immediately carved up by his generals after his death, splintering into 3 warring successor kingdoms. The bitter fruits of feudalism played out simultaneously in both East and West. If you were the Emperor of Qin, what would you do? How would you keep your empire from repeating history? Facing this crisis, Yingzheng summoned his ministers. Most were remarkably unanimous: follow the well-worn path, it's safest. They urged, Your Majesty, and fief your sons to the old kingdoms. Let them serve as feudal lords guarding the 4 corners. Father and sons, brothers, bound by blood, the realm will be stable. Yingzheng listened in silence. He had indeed hesitated. Feudalism was the only system validated over centuries. But then, Prime Minister Li Se stepped forward. Your Majesty, why were we able to unify the realm? Not because Qin was so powerful, but because the Zhou dynasty parceled out our ancestors and those of the 6 kingdoms. After centuries, family bonds evaporated. All that remained was territory and ambition. You've seen with your own eyes how feudal lords spilled rivers of blood over land, while the emperor became a figurehead, a mascot stripped of all dignity. Do you want your descendants to end up the same way? These words cut into Yingzheng's heart like a knife. He remembered the late Zhou era, when the king was ordered about by lords, reduced to a puppet. He didn't want his descendants to suffer the same fate. What he wanted was for the great Qin to endure for 10,000 generations. And so Yingzheng made an earth-shattering decision: abolish feudalism and implement the commandery county system. The emperor would no longer govern through feudal lords, but directly manage every citizen and every inch of land. He built something truly ahead of its time, a nationwide big data system. Every piece of land registered, every grain yield recorded, every person's household registration, age, and occupation documented clearly. This was the reporting system. From his palace in Xianyang, Yingzheng could know how much grain a county 1,000 miles away had harvested and how many soldiers it had conscripted. Every governor and magistrate was personally appointed by the emperor. No hereditary positions, regular performance reviews, mandatory rotations. Like a shovel digging out the soil that let local powers entrench themselves for generations. But the system alone wasn't enough. Old aristocrats and strongmen still commanded loyalty in their territories. Yingzheng's solution: relocation. He forcibly moved roughly 120,000 households of influential families to the capital's vicinity, uprooted from their homeland, severed from their networks, placed under the watchful eye of the state. This weakened rebellion capacity while enriching the capital 2 birds, 1 stone. Then came the subtractions. Tear down all old city walls, leave no fortified strongholds for rebels. confiscate all civilian weapons, swords, bows, crossbows, all surrendered. The bronze and iron was shipped to Xianyang, melted, and cast into 12 colossal statues before the palace. Even if you refused to submit, with nothing in your hands, what could you fight with? Physical control alone wasn't enough. Ying Zheng demanded ideological unity. On Li Su's advice came the decree debated for 2,000 years, the burning of books. All histories except Qin's own, the classics, the 100 schools of thought burned, private academies banned. Want to study? Learn law from government officials. As for scholars who criticized policy, over 460 were buried alive outside Xianyang. Brutal, but his logic was clear. One nation, one law, one ideology, one voice. Finally, Ying Zheng had one more trick: personal inspection tours. 5 massive tours in 12 years, from the eastern seashore to Dongting Lake to the Great Wall. Grand processions, imposing guards wherever he went, everyone knelt. Not tourism displays of imperial might. The message: the emperor is powerful, don't even think about it. Through this combination, the county system, relocating strongmen, tearing down walls, confiscating weapons, unifying thought, and personal tours, Ying Zheng held together an empire 6.5 times the size of France. His system was inherited by the Han Dynasty and influenced China for over 2,000 years. While he destroyed the 6 kingdoms, he forged the framework of an eternal China. Yet merely a dozen years later, the Great Qin came crashing down in flames. Want to know why such a short-lived dynasty became the very name for China? We'll cover that in the next episode.